Hey, you're listening to episode 8 of the TA Pedals podcast. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Stephon.
So after an exhausting week, we finally got some things to talk about, and I'm feeling a lot better. Still not 100%, but feeling a lot better than I did, that's for sure. So I'm glad that we are getting together to talk about some crazy stuff today.
Me too.
So
for those of you who don't know, Tristan got the flu and he's been sick, like sick.
Yeah, like tried to go back to work, almost passed out, had to take a couple more days off. I was honestly miserable. Like I really was. I would have rather been at work than have been going through what I was going through.
Yeah, you didn't look very good, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for stepping in and taking care of me, because I'm not one to ask for help. So I needed it.
It's no big deal. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know how it is. So anyway, yeah, we're back. Feel it like I'm like 95% back, ready to go get some stuff done. You brought the PCBs for the buffer today, which is pretty cool. They're tiny, which they're
so
cute.
tiny.
They're so cute.
They fit on the end of my finger.
I'm ready to populate one of those, and I'm gonna put it in something. I mean, I'm gonna have to. We don't have enclosures yet, so I'm gonna try to find something funny, like one of Benjamin's toys or something, and put it in it.
Yeah, we do need to get to work on those enclosures, because I want to get them ordered pretty soon.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing that.
Yeah, I think we just need to figure out the drill template, and then we can order them. So
yeah, which I mean, we can probably make a template pretty easy because we're just putting both input jacks like on each side, and then the LED and power, and good to go.
Yeah, it's going to be fairly simple. It's just making sure that we have the hole for the LED in the good spot.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I like that we're like using that like lens, because I've been curious about that for a while.
Yeah, I think that's going to work out very nicely.
So, have you heard about all the crazy conspiracy stuff surrounding the Oscars and what happened with Will Smith?
I heard what happened, but I don't know about the conspiracy stuff. Why don't you tell me about that?
Oh, it's long story short, like, because you can see video of him laughing at the joke at first, and then there's like a camera cutaway. It's kind of like people think that Jada is like suppressing him and making him do these things that he wouldn't normally do otherwise. And they say that like the way he slapped Chris Rock, it's like he didn't want to, like he felt obligated or pressured because of her reaction, because like it bothered her. But he did issue an apology or whatever. But what I think is weird is how, and I haven't heard like any specific conspiracies about this, but I heard that people were saying that they were expecting this year's Oscars to be like the ratings to be dreadful, because just no one cares about the Oscars anymore. And then Will Smith goes and does something like this, and everyone's talking about it, including us. And,
yeah.
Was it a publicity stunt?
I mean, if it were me and like, yeah, Chris Rock is a comedian and like he's up there to make jokes, but regardless of that, there's certain lines you don't cross. And if my wife was going through something like that and someone was up on stage making a joke out of it, I probably would have done it. I would probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, they said a lot of people are pointing to it not being a conspiracy because the FCC doesn't allow for profanity like that on live television. And so, the Oscars, the organization might be getting fined for that or whatever, for like quote unquote allowing it to happen. And so I don't think it was a conspiracy, but I do think he like reacted in a weird way, because like it was weird that he laughed about it first,
Yeah,
and
but
then was like,
you got to consider maybe like it was like laughter out of disbelief that he actually went to that
yeah,
spot.
that's true.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, I can't believe he just did that. Haha. I'm going to go up there and slap his ass.
Yeah, that could be it too, for sure. So do you think that there are like conspiracies in like the music world?
I've definitely heard a lot of conspiracies. For, one, for example, like the whole, certain artists dying at the age of 27. That thing is kind of weird. And then there's like the whole Jay-Z and Beyonce Illuminati thing that seems kind of weird. So yeah, I feel like the conspiracies in the music scene is definitely a real thing. Like regardless of, if those conspiracies are real or not, or if they're truth, is a different story,
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are definitely conspiracies in the literal, meaning of the word, as far as like people coming up with some master plan to change public opinion on something through the use of their media, or maybe even to spread certain propaganda. I think that that's happened in the past and, recent times as well. But as far as like as far as conspiracy theories go, it gets pretty weird.
Yeah, there's some weird ones out there for sure.
Like the Pink Floyd thing, like where if you take like the record Dark Side of the Moon and play it simultaneously alongside the Wizard of Oz, like it's supposed to match up like perfectly. And that's kind of weird. And I don't know like what the point of that would be, but was that like on purpose? Was it? I don't know.
It's just one of them coincidences. It's just,
like
they just
coincidental.
They just happen to make their songs the same length as a certain scene, and it just ended up. It's like one of those things where every so often all the planets in our solar system line up perfectly. It's like just one of them weird things that happen.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is some truth to that coincidence is coincidence.
Yeah.
But there are some situations where it's like, what has to happen for it not to be a coincidence anymore? Like to point to it being something more than coincidence.
Someone has to admit that it's not.
Right, which will never, ever happen, which is why.
Unless sometimes it does.
Yeah, I wish it would. I wish it would just once. I'm so into this kind of thing. Not even just like music conspiracies,
don't you
but the rest
have
of
like
it.
kind of a conspiracy story where there was some things that were admitted to be real?
Oh God. Yeah. So, where do I start?
Start one day in Oklahoma City.
Okay. So I'm gonna keep it really vague, just in case the powers that be decide to come after me. This is
by the way, the person who's talking, his name is not Tristan.
Right. This is
wink, wink.
My evil twin.
Eyeball to the left,
Kristen.
eyeball to the right.
No, you're not referring to like the all-seeing eye, are you?
No.
Good, because I can't handle
I was just
that
trying
right
to give people a visual example of what I was doing.
now. Okay. So when I was living in Oklahoma City, I worked at a retail store, very popular retail store for like alternative culture. And when I started working at this retail store, I started at Penn Square Mall, and I worked with this guy who was in a band. And, with me being like into recording and stuff, I was always like looking to make relationships and find new artists and bands that I was interested in. And I never wanted to work with anyone whose sound I wasn't interested in. And this guy's band was doing music in a way that was very different than a lot of the other bands in Oklahoma City. It had more like an industrial influence. Bands like Marilyn Manson, mixed with like Starset. A lot of bands that were doing a lot of like had a lot of industrial elements mixed with like electronic, like driving synthesizers that had like a creepy vibe to them, mixed with like heavy guitars and whatever. It was like industrial metal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started talking to this guy about his music, and his band was always playing shows around Oklahoma City, and they were really active. And so like I started, like we had a common interest in the recording side of things. And he was one of the first people that I personally knew that bought the Native Instruments like complete package, and you're allowed to have those licenses on like I think 2 or 3 computers. And so he got it, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. I've really been looking at that for a long time, but it's so expensive, and I really just need contact or whatever. And he was like, well, I'll just give you one of the licenses for Native Instruments Complete. And I was like, oh, like that's cool. That's really nice of you. Like that's like, software that costs like over $1,000. And I was like, okay, like that's really cool. That'll help me. And so, whatever, like we kept being friends and, like not really hanging out, but like hanging out at work and stuff. I was the assistant manager, and he was a sales associate, but he was a sales associate that had worked there for a very long time. So he was like one of the more trusted employees, and he knew what he was doing. And so he transferred to another location, and I continued to work at Penn Square Mall, and we kept in touch. We would, talk from time to time over like Instagram and, whatever. Well, skip ahead a couple years. I become the full-time assistant manager at the Outlet Mall in Oklahoma City. And this guy, I can't remember if he was needing to transfer or if he was like being hired again. I think he was being hired again. I think he had quit. And we were looking for associates to come in and help. And we needed a part-time manager as well. And so my boss was like, do you know anyone? And I was like, well, I know this guy, and he's worked for us before. And I think that he would, be able to be responsible and whatever. So we should hire him on. And so we hired him on as the part-time manager. And we started talking about some endorsements that he had got. And he had gotten endorsements from like some big name amplifier brands and some guitar case brands. And I was like, how did you do that? And he was like, well, I did a guy some favors, and he hooked us up with an endorsement from these companies. And he was like, I can get you, these amps that are normally like $2,000 or whatever. I can get it for you if you want for like $600, because that's the artist discount that I get now. And I was like, okay, like that sounds pretty cool, but like, how did you get it? And he was like, okay, well, you know how I went and recorded some music with the producer from like Marilyn Manson a while back? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, he knows this other producer. And just to be clear, take this with a grain of salt because I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Plus, he's like super scared to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a family now, and it's just kind of weird to have even ever encountered this because, you know, you hear the legends, but like I came pretty close to it and thankfully like refused the offers that I was offered because like I didn't want to owe anyone anything, you know what I mean? And so he was like, well, I went and recorded music with, you know, Marilyn Manson's producer and like some of his old bandmates. And I'm being very vague on purpose. And he was like, well, something happened with this guy's wife. And this other producer's wife has been staying at his mansion in Nichols Hills in Oklahoma City. And I was like, okay, so like, what did you do? And he was like, well, he found out that she was cheating on him. So they were going to be gone at this specific time. And he needed me to break into this house. He told me like what window was going to be open. He gave me very clear instructions to like cover my face and wear gloves with fingers on them so I won't leave fingerprints, and to go into the house. And he said that like they got into the house and they were when they were instructed to leave drugs and guns inside this house. Okay. And he said that like when they got in the house, the alarm system went off, and they like called the guy and they were like, hey, the alarm system's going off. And they were like, okay, like, you know, don't worry about it. And he disarmed it like remotely. So the guy told me that the like police showed up and he was looking out the blinds, and the police car stopped and was like looking because, you know, the alarm had been triggered, and he was like calling for backup, and some like more cops showed up. And so they called the guy and they were like, hey, the cops are here. And he was like, yeah, don't worry about it. And he's like, the guy said he like was looking out the window through the blinds, and he said he saw the cop pick up his phone and like look at the house. And then all like he told his guys that they were leaving, and all the cops got in their cars and drove off. And he said that like he assumes after that the police like went into the house later because the alarm had been tripped, and they were supposed to find the drugs and guns and get his wife in trouble. And it's just really kind of sketchy because normally, you know, I wouldn't believe this kind of story, but like I saw the messages from the guy and the producer talking about what the plan was. And once everything was done, I saw them talking about the endorsements from the brand company, like the gear companies. And I also saw that like the account was verified. So like it was legit, and it wasn't photoshopped or like it wasn't screenshots. He opened the app and was like, look at this, and was like laughing about it. And he was like, this is crazy, right? And I was like, yeah, that's pretty nuts. And like he kept me in the loop about like things they were having to do for this guy. It was him and one of his bandmates. And they would occasionally get messages from this guy and do things for him. And it's just really sketchy. And so like I was close to like that conspiracy world. And to be honest, I didn't understand like the full scope of how much I could have been involved in that and how dangerous it could have gotten very quickly. And I'm glad I got away from it and refused like all the offers and stuff. And even now, thinking back to the first thing that I accepted, you know, with the Native Instruments, you know, him sharing his software with me, I'm still kind of like, I'm still using that today. And it still kind of weirds me out a little bit because I almost feel like I owe him something. And so like, yeah, you just shouldn't mess around with that stuff if you ever encounter it. And I'm not superstitious. I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to inflate the story or exaggerate. It's just what happened, and it's scary.
If anything, you're deflating it.
I'm trying to.
It's like a lot more scary than you're letting on.
Yeah.
It's like you can hear the tremble in your voice as you talk about it. Like it's weird.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's terrifying. I mean, it really is scary. Like the guy that I'm talking about that worked for me at the retail store, like he'll occasionally message me, and like he's told me that he has like features from like vocal features from big name artists coming up, which you can just pay people for that. And so like that's not that sketchy, but then like he'll be like, yeah, we also just got a guitar endorsement. I'll send you a couple guitars. And I'm like, that's not, isn't that expensive to like ship them? And like, I always like try to like talk him out of it kind of, but at the same time, like, I don't know how to feel about it. Like, it's just weird. It's really weird. And this guy, he got his introduction to these people and the ability to do these things because he made a lot of money off of stocks. And I didn't really believe him about that at first either, but then he showed me his bank account, and he had like several $100,000 in his bank account, and he had told me about these trips that he would take to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. And I'd ask him several times like how he got the money. Was it like real estate investment or whatever? And he said it was through gains from stocks because he invested in Fortnite when it like before it blew up, and then it blew up and he cashed out. And so he had all this money to do these crazy things with. And it was like the retail job was just like kind of, it's almost like a cover because he was like buying all these things, which I don't know why he would, I don't understand the whole thing, like why he would need a cover.
If you have a legitimate stock and you have, a paper trail of getting that money from somewhere, then like you don't need to cover anything.
Yeah, I don't understand like what it was. Like, I guess I'm not saying he never said it was a cover, but I just didn't understand why he would be working a job making like $12 an hour.
Because maybe, I don't know. I've always thought that if I came into a lot of money and like could pay my bills for 20 years, let's say, I would still work because having all that money and not having anything to do all day will drive you crazy faster than the opposite.
Yeah, but I guess like you would have to know this guy to know that that's probably not how he feels. And he apparently had plenty to do, if you know what I mean. So I don't know, but yeah, that's my real life close encounter with. Oh, one last detail. He showed me like the last message that the guy had, like the producer guy had sent him after he had done a job for him. He was like, "You'd make a great Freemason." That was the last thing he said to him. And I was like, okay.
What?
Yeah, it was really weird. But that's my real world first person,
you did
encounter.
You did all these things for me. You'd make a great Freemason.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's really, really strange. But like I saw the official, like I saw everything. I saw the verified accounts. I saw the endorsement deals that had went through for a relatively small band. I saw the calls that they had made and this guy's like a high level official dude. So
That's really
all I can say.
That's really scary because there's a lot of conspiracies that surround Freemasons, and what you just said suggests that Freemasons are basically for hire to do whatever you want them to do.
I don't know. Like anything past my personal experience would be speculation. And I've went down the rabbit hole before just because it's so crazy. And it's, we like to make scenarios up in our minds of what could be and, whatever. But like at the end of the day, I only have my personal experience, and it's pretty scary, honestly. I don't like to talk about it a whole lot because I have a family.
Please don't kill me.
Yeah, but that is a legit story, and yeah, I've tried to distance myself since then.
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
I don't. I have a weird thing that I'd like to add.
Okay.
When I was younger, I worked at this restaurant, and there was like all these rumors and stuff about like how these. So there was like three restaurants that, of the same chain that were in the area. And there was this rumor that all the managers were part of this. They were all like in a group together that had to do with like, what's that word? Orgies and stuff like that.
Oh,
and it was like really weird to be like working next to this person that's like, you're my manager and you're doing this weird stuff on the side. That it's weird to work. It's weird to work next to someone and they're a part of something that's weird like that.
Yeah. It's true. Because like
it's very uncomfortable.
What's weird about like the situation that I was in was like I was the guy's boss.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had to tell him what to do. And I also had to like reprimand him if something went wrong. And I was like, if I get onto him, is he going to murder me or have me murdered?
Well, I don't think he'd have you murdered, but he'd definitely plant some drugs and guns in your house.
Yeah, for real. Like, oh my gosh. It was weird. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. It was weird.
It's joke time. It's joke time.
I am Buzz Aldrin, second man to step on the moon. Kneel before me.
I didn't know there was going to be a joke today. You surprised me with that one.
Yeah,
Can we get some audience claps?
Of course. I'll just put in the laughter from last week. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like people really think it's funny.
Okay.
So anyway, I was using that as a segue to get us onto some actual pedal discussion and break the ominous mood.
Yeah.
Because even though we planned that conversation, it's uncomfortable. So what I wanted to talk about today was gain staging, specifically within pedals, between pedals, and to an amp. So
that's good because I need some more knowledge about this stuff.
Okay. So I guess let's start off by like saying like what is gain staging? Gain staging is essentially setting the gain and or volume because those are not always interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
But setting, I would say it's more a case of setting the volume in between. I think I want to back up. It's gain and or volume in between each amplification stage of audio. So for example, in a pedal, whenever you have your guitar going into, let's imagine this scenario. You have just your guitar, just your favorite distortion pedal that uses hard clipping on the ground, and then it goes straight into your amplifier.
Which is exactly how mine's set up at home.
Okay, so this is perfect then. So, the first stage in a guitar pedal when it comes to creating distortion is an amplification stage. And you can amplify audio essentially by using an op amp or a transistor and applying voltage. So that's what amplifies your guitar signal. Now, once the guitar signal leaves the op amp or whatever other amplification component, it goes into usually some sort of configuration of clipping diodes. You can clip the op amp or transistor as well, but we'll get into that in a minute. So coming out of the op amp is your amplified guitar signal going into a set of clipping diodes. Those clipping diodes have what's called a forward voltage. And essentially, only a certain amount of your guitar signal is going to get through or past those diodes. The rest of it is going to be clipped off in one way or another, whether it is soft clipping or hard clipping, depends on the diode configuration and type. And so when the peaks of your guitar signal are cut off, like imagine when you record the DI of your guitar into your DAW, you can see like the transient spikes. Those spikes are cut off, and that creates like rich harmonic content, which we perceive as distortion. The level of the distortion that is produced is determined by the level of the signal that's going into those diodes and at what point those diodes start to clip. And so, with that being the case, essentially what you can do is adjust the amount of clipping by reducing the input volume of the signal going into the op amp by like rolling your guitar volume down. You could well, yeah, I mean in this scenario with the one pedal, I guess that would be it. But on the like most guitar pedal, like distortion guitar pedals are going to have like a distortion knob too. Mm-hmm. And that's going to control how much the like op amp usually is amplifying and how much signal therefore is being driven into the diodes. And so with something with a forward voltage, you know, like an LED, for example, those are going to clip. They have a higher headroom, so they're going to clip later than something like a silicon diode, like a 1N4148, or even a germanium diode that will clip faster than a silicon diode in most cases. I'm pretty sure it depends on the piece, of course, but so by changing the diodes, that and the, you know, by nature they have different forward voltage that determines how much distortion is created in that guitar pedal. And so in this scenario, yeah.
So like the different diodes, you know, so like you got your light clipping, which is LEDs, and then you have your heavier clipping, which gets down to the germanium, and the voltage. How much voltage is associated with those diodes determines how much clipping there is. So like the lower the voltage, the more clipping.
Yeah. Like essentially think of like a semi truck trying to drive under a low bridge. And in this case, the semi truck is your guitar signal. And the very peak, the highest point, which is the trailer or whatever, is like the loudest part of your guitar signal. Imagine the semi truck trying to drive under a low bridge and the bridge just skims off the top of the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Or say it's an even lower bridge and it just completely takes half the trailer off.
Yep.
Like, that's how you can think of it.
The height of the bridge is the type of diodes you got.
Yeah, exactly. It's the forward voltage of whatever diodes you have in the pedal. And so that's essentially how, like, you know, distortion is created in a guitar pedal. And you can have multiple stages of, you know, clipping or whatever to create, you know, fuzz tones or whatever. Like the less clipping that is in the guitar pedal or created by the guitar pedal determines kind of what type of distortion. Like less clipping obviously is like going to be overdrives, than like medium clipping to high clipping is going to be like distortion pedals, and then like just over the top destroying your signal is going to be like fuzz pedals. And you can create clipping at different points in your guitar signal chain, essentially, because like say that you had 2 distortion pedals, you could take the first one and boost the volume, the output stage of that distortion pedal up to a point where once it goes into the second distortion pedal, it actually can clip the op amp. You can clip the op amp before it ever actually reaches the diodes, because those op amp IC chips have
they're only rated for so much.
They're only rated for a certain level of voltage, essentially. And so once you exceed that, you can clip that too. And that's actually what we do on the Vampire Squid pedal. Is we have an op amp clipping option where you can clip the OP07 that's inside, and it takes the clipping diodes completely out of the signal chain altogether. So there's always that option too.
Yeah,
but
I love that option.
Yeah, it's my favorite actually. But so there's that, but also if you can clip the front end of your amp as well, like when you hit the front end of your amp too hard or like quote unquote too hard. And so there's a lot of different ways to, you know, use this to your advantage, or it can be a disadvantage as well. You just have to be mindful of, you know, the output level between your pedals and how much distortion you're creating internally with each pedal. And, you know, if you're wanting to adjust how the pedal cleans up by rolling your guitar volume down, you can do that too, but you have to, you know, obviously like set the pedal at a certain point where that's possible. So there's a lot to consider with gain staging, and it's really important.
And like Bo said, he likes to like in a pedal like that, like we've created with the op amp, he likes to keep it on, because even if he's not using you know, the fuzz or the distortion, he still has a boost in volume that he can drive into other signal.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important, like, to take into consideration how much not only gain but volume a pedal has on tap, because you can use it as like a boost, even without, you know, engaging the diodes to introduce distortion. So, I mean, there's so many ways to use these like gain-based pedals. I don't really know how else to call or how else to say what type they are, because they're so versatile in the things that you can do when you really start to think about it. As far as like just getting a volume boost and coloring your sound a little bit, or getting full on fuzz tones. This a lot of the same pedals can hold down multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Which I think is, really, it can put you in a position to use pedals in a way that you normally wouldn't think to. And I think that's why, a lot of people hate the Boss DS1, the orange one.
Mm-hmm.
But like people like Kurt Cobain, use that, and Nirvana's iconic. There's a lot of people who use those, or Stevie Ray Vaughan, used tube screamers. Like I think he used 2 stacked tube screamers. So it's not necessarily about the pedal or whatever even. It's about like what's your intention for the pedal and how are you using it and how are you adapting that circuit to meet your needs.
Yeah.
And so that's why guitar players tend to have 50 different gain pedals or dirt pedals on their board, because we use them in so many different ways.
Yeah. There's the combinations are endless. Like you can never like run out of combinations to put different pedals together to find a different sound. I think that's really cool.
I think that's one of the best things about, the pedal world is like, it's almost like, we're kids playing with Legos.
Or candy.
Or kid in a candy shop. Yeah. There's so many different flavors, of distortion, and it all depends on like, what are you going for? Like, what are you feeling that day? And how can you use the tools at your disposal to meet your goal?
Yeah. My like advice, never stop buying pedals, because you never know what you're going to get. You never know what that pedal is going to sound like with that pedal, or that one at that one. And if you have a pedal in front of you and you're interested in it, just buy it, because you're never going to run out of options as far as what sounds you can get from it.
Yeah, it's like imagine painting, like trying to paint a landscape, a beautiful landscape, and you only have, green and brown.
Yeah.
And then you go to the store and you're like, I think I need some orange in my life.
Definitely need red.
Yeah, definitely need red. I mean,
what about white?
White, you're going to need
put
white.
Some black in it.
Yeah.
You got to have a way to darken those colors. You got to have a way to lighten those colors.
Exactly. And so the more pedals you have, it's the more tonal versatility and options you have to explore and find your sound.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like that other band.
No one wants to sound like that other band.
You want to sound like you got some inspiration from them, but you don't want to sound just like them, do you?
It depends on what band, because if someone told me right now, hey, you can sound like Linkin Park, I'd be like, okay, I'll do it.
I mean, I feel like we have a decent setup to where we could get pretty close to that sound.
Oh, we definitely could with the Axe effects. It's all right there in the box. But I guess what I mean is like everyone does things a little differently. Like each pedal company does things a little differently, and not any, necessarily any better or worse. Like as far as the quality of things go, literally the only thing you should be looking at as like with your eyes is the quality of the enclosure. And if you're going to be stomping on it, you want it to be sturdy, but otherwise just plug your guitar into it. Like go down to your local guitar shop, plug your guitar or bass into it and try it out. And if it sounds good, just go ahead and take it home.
Yeah. Why not?
Use your ears and play what you like. And don't let people discourage you and say, oh, you have to play, these $300 and $400 pedals to sound good, because it's just not true anymore.
Yeah.
The difference in quality of sound nowadays is marginal.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're buying a pedal that's more than $200, it probably should be digital. Like at this point, analog stuff is getting kind of cheap and almost obsolete. And if there's an analog pedal out there that's more than $200, you might want to wait till that price drops.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say it would have to be something extremely special and like have components in it that are nearly impossible to find for me to pay,
Yeah.
that much money for it.
Yeah, but at that point, is it worth it? Like,
It depends.
Can you buy another pedal that has those components in it?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
An older pedal, an older
then,
used pedal that already has that stuff in it.
Well, a lot of the time, the older pedals that have those components in it are very expensive. That's what I'm saying is like for example, there are, like the old Green Russian big muff pedals that were made in Russia, and they have like the Russian components. Those are, again, it's just a difference in sound. It's not better or worse, but people pay for that sound because it does sound a particular way. So unless you're like, I know for a fact that's the sound I want, and that's literally the only way that I can get it because those components were only made in Russia in 1960 and those pedals were only made for 5 years, then there's no point in buying it unless you are sure about something like that. You can get things that are so similar to it that the difference is negligible. It's the same idea as like, certain pedals having the magic chips or the magic diodes. There are modern components that are being produced in a lot of the cases that have the same specs. For example, our squid pedal, the magic chip for the rat is the LM308, but the OP07 has like pretty much the same.
LM308. Why does it sound familiar?
Because we use the LM833 in one of our upcoming pedals.
In our Sharky Shark?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's the whole idea is like, you just got to know what you're doing with the pedals and know how they work. And it gets pretty nerdy and pretty deep, but, like once you understand how the circuitry works a little bit and do a little bit of a deep dive, once or twice and understand it, then you can learn how to use pedals properly for what you want to use them for. And what's inside doesn't necessarily make or break the pedal.
I just listen. I know it's weird, but all this talk has just given me some like crazy ideas, and I think I'd like to do a boost pedal soon.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm down for boost.
And I want, and like I already have like a pretty good idea of how I want it to work. So it's crazy.
Oh crap. Okay. And that mind is always just turning, huh?
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Well,
we have so many freaking ideas.
And we're going to do them too.
Somebody please finance us.
Yeah, just set me up with a team of competent people who can...
Just give us a business loan for $50,000.
Yeah.
And all your dreams will come true. I promise.
You just reminded me of Napoleon Dynamite. Vote for Pedro and all your dreams will come true.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, are you ready to call it a day?
I am.
Thank you for listening to episode 8. It's been fun. It's been scary. And we still only need 30 followers?
No, we need 18 followers.
18 followers.
18 followers.
We need 18 followers on our Instagram so we can give away this vampire squid pedal. So if you're listening to this and you haven't followed us yet, or if you have friends that you think would be interested in what we're doing, have them follow us. And we appreciate your support and we'll talk to you on the next podcast episode.
Bye.
Bye.